At 83, a woman realized that everything she knew about cleanliness was wrong. It started with a hug from her daughter, who noticed a scent that shouldn't have been there. The woman had been bathing every day, just as she always had. Hot water, soap, and a vigorous scrub. She thought she was doing everything right. But her body was crying out. By October, her shins were raw from scratching in her sleep. Red lines ran up her legs like she'd been attacked. She thought it was dry winter air. She applied lotion, but the itching only worsened. Little white flakes began to appear on her arms and her pillows. Logic told her to bathe more. She turned up the heat, stayed in the steam for 30 minutes, and scrubbed harder. She didn't realize she was stripping away her only protection. Aging skin doesn't produce oil like it used to. Every hot bath was dissolving the natural barrier, leaving her skin angry and defenseless against the world. Then, she ran out of soap. Too tired to buy more in the icy weather, she skipped a day. Then two. On the third day, the itching suddenly went quiet. Cleanliness, she discovered, doesn't always mean frequent washing. Her mother had taught her one thing, but her 83-year-old skin was telling her another. The truth about her skin came from the unlikeliest of places, an 8-year-old neighbor named Emma, who lived 2 doors down. The child was sitting at her kitchen table, doing homework on the human body. She looked up and asked, "Miss Margaret, did you know your skin cleans itself?" "It says here," the child continued, "your skin has tiny helpers living on it. Good bacteria that eat the dead parts and keep the bad stuff away." The child had a scientific term for it, the skin's microbiome. A whole community of organisms that protect us from harm, which we wash away with too much soap. The woman sat there, listening to an 8-year-old describe the very thing she had been doing wrong for 60 years. All the habits she'd inherited, now questioned. She called her doctor's office. 3 weeks later, she sat in the clinical stillness of the exam room and told the truth about the itching, the flaking, and her accidental discovery. The doctor nodded, unsurprised. She had a surprising recommendation. For patients over 70, bathing once or twice a week is usually enough. Aging skin doesn't need daily washing, the doctor explained. In fact, daily washing often does more harm than good. The woman left feeling like a key had been turned. The woman learned there were ways to stay fresh without a full bath. Spot cleaning, wipes, and fresh clothes. She didn't need to submerge her whole body to feel clean. She called her daughter and told her the truth, that the daily baths were actually the cause of the odor and the damaged skin. The shame began to fade. But the bathroom had one more lesson waiting. It was late February, a gray morning. She decided to take her twice-weekly bath, feeling proud and prepared. Getting in was fine, but getting out was different. Her arms shook. Her foot searched for the mat, and in a second, she slipped. A few inches was enough to change everything. She ended up half in, half out, her heart pounding in her teeth. She sat on the closed toilet lid for 20 minutes, wet and shaking, realized how close she had come. She thought of a neighbor who had fallen and never returned home. The statistics are brutal. 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls every year. And it usually happens here. Every time she took a bath, she was walking into a life-threatening risk voluntarily. The simple act of hygiene had become a marathon her body could no longer run. That evening, she sat in the silence, listening to the house settle. She realized that the hardest part wasn't changing her habits. It was admitting she needed help. After each bath, the woman felt an exhaustion that reached her bones. She would sit on her bed for 30 minutes, just waiting for her breath to return. Her doctor explained the science. Warm water causes blood vessels to dilate, making the heart work harder. For a senior, a bath is not just a wash. It is an athletic exertion. She realized her energy was like a savings account. Every bath was a huge withdrawal. If she spent it all on hygiene, there was nothing left for joy. The child from next door noticed. She asked, "Miss Margaret, why do you always look tired after your baths? Maybe you should save your energy for important stuff." The woman laughed, but the child's words stuck. She had been exhausting herself on rules and rituals while her garden and her life sat untouched. She looked at a catalog for medical supplies. She saw a woman smiling in a shower chair. At first, it felt like surrender, like admitting she was finally old. Then she remembered a voice from her past. Strength isn't doing everything yourself, Margaret. It's knowing when to let things be easier. 50 years later, she finally understood. A shower chair wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a tool for intelligence. It was a way to reclaim her day. The chair arrived in March. It wasn't a symbol of defeat, but a key to freedom. A neighbor helped set it up, sharing that his own mother had used one to make her life easier. That night, she bathed without fear. She sat while the water ran, washing slowly and carefully. When she stepped out, she was steady, her heart calm, and her energy intact. She looked in the mirror and didn't see someone broken. She saw someone who had finally learned to carry her age with intelligence instead of stubbornness. She realized that hygiene isn't about the frequency of baths. It's about listening to a body that no longer needs what it did at 30. It needs grace, not scrubbing. When her daughter visited again, she didn't stiffen during the hug. She noticed the scent of lavender and the light in her mother's eyes. The burden of doing things the hard way was gone. Dignity is not about doing everything yourself until you break. It is about taking care of yourself well, whatever that requires, even if it's a chair or a wipe. She is still learning, still figuring out what her body needs. But she is no longer fighting it. She is saving her energy for the porch, for the garden, and for the people she loves. Thank you for joining us in the silence room. Remember, your body knows things you may have forgotten. Sometimes, the first step to care is simply to listen.